right, welcome back to the Rush Hour Podcast. I'm your host, Frazier Smith. I'm here with my co-host, Eric Shen. This is the podcast for various Yu-Gi-Oh topics, and today we'll be covering NAWCQ 2024, aka Nationals. So I'm going to start the timer now. So a lot of people are wondering what happened to me at Nationals because apparently I didn't play, right? And I was telling everyone, don't worry, it's nothing bad, right? Like that nothing happened. You know, there was no run-in with me and Konami. Some people speculated that maybe Konami told me not to play or something. That was like one of the rumors. There were so many different rumors about what happened and why I did not play. So the truth is, and this is the first time that Eric's hearing about this. He has no idea.
I have no clue.
And I didn't tell
anyone. And I literally
anyone.
talked to you like 5 minutes before round one started.
Yes. So I was deciding what I wanted to play for Nationals for a long time leading up to it. And the morning of, I was still tinkering around with my deck. And the night before, I was tinkering around with my deck as well. You know, just picking card choices. I was like, oh, I think this will be good for this tournament. This will be good, blah, blah, blah. But your boy kind of goofed. So here's what happened. Time zones are a bitch. That's all I can say.
Oh,
time zones are a bitch. So this is the thing. I live in Philadelphia, right? And that's on the East Coast. And that is Eastern Standard Time right now, so EST. And Texas is an hour behind Philadelphia. So on the website, when you register your deck list, it said 11 a.m. Now, I didn't realize that it said 11 a.m. ET, which is actually the time zone that I live in. So that's a benefit, I guess, to just like, oh, it's in my own time zone. Now, I've played in a bunch of Ultimate Time Wizard tournaments before, and I've always submitted my deck list, you know, well, like whenever, right? Like an hour before, 2 minutes before, whatever. Like I submit my deck list. This time, I was in my room, my hotel room. It's like 9:30 a.m. and I am just kind of chilling. I'm still shuffling around with cards. I'm like, do I want to still side 3 Dust Tornadoes? Do I still want to side 3 DD Crows? I'm playing Hero Frogs, no surprise there. So I'm still tinkering with it. And then it gets to like, I want to say it was like 10, literally, like not even kidding. It was like 10:01 a.m. in Texas. And I go to click the submit decklist button. And it was like decklist tardy. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, what is, okay. So I was like, why is it giving me that error? So I try to do it again and it's like decklist submission tardy on my registration thing. So I literally can't even submit a decklist at this point. And I don't know, I don't know if it took mine or not either. So I was like, all right, let me go back to the events page and just check that I didn't like mess this up. So I'm looking at the thing and I'm like, it says 11 a.m. And then I see the ET next to it. I'm like, oh no, that means that it is 11 a.m. where I live, but I'm currently in Texas. So the submission, I missed the submission by a minute, right? So, okay, I know what happens to people usually when they don't submit a deck list or whatever. They usually just get like a game loss. And I believe that there were some people who actually played in Nationals and they got a game loss. They played with they submitted their deck list late and they just started the tournament with one game loss. I don't think you lose the entire match or anything like that, but they get one game loss. So I showed up at like 10:40-ish to the actual event. So it's like 20 minutes before it starts. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have a game loss. It's no big deal. I can 2-0 my opponent round one, especially round one. I can 2-0 my opponent. Literally, I was like, I'm not thinking anything of it. The pairings come out and my name's not even on the fucking sheet. Like it's literally just not on the sheet.
It was not there.
So Robbie Stargell, who he also has the last name with an S. He usually, and this is interesting, but like at a lot of events, me and him end up at the pairings together and he tells me where I sit a lot of times. This is like a normal thing that I've experienced with him. So he's like, hey, I don't see your name on there. So I'm like, are you sure? So obviously now I have to rush to the front of the pairings thing to see it. So I'm looking at it like he's right. It's not on there. So I'm like, oh God, did they not put me in? Like, I understand that the deck list submission is tardy, but like the deck list still got submitted. I want to be clear that the deck list itself, the one that I tried to put in, you know, that's the deck I was playing with. Like, that's the one that I had built in my bag. That's the one that I was going to use. So I go to the desk. I go to a judge first. Like, I run into a judge and I'm like, hey, I'm not on the actual sheet. He's like, okay, go to the side event stage thing. I go to them, talk to a couple people. They don't know what to do. So then they send me to this one lady and she's like, oh, let me check your thing because maybe you didn't submit your deck list on time. I was like, yeah, I got a message saying something about my deck list was tardy. I was like, I literally submitted at 10:01. And after it said that, I took a screenshot of it with the clock on my MacBook in the top right showing that it was 10:01. I was like, you know, it's still late, whatever. I'll take whatever penalty they give me. Right. So she looks at it. She's like, well, we called for people who didn't submit a deck list on the loudspeaker so that we could put them in. Now, I didn't hear that. But this is funny because a lot of shit happened at this event where people didn't hear things and they ended up getting penalized for it. So she's like, yeah, we call people who didn't submit a deck list to the stage. But if you didn't hear it, then we're just going to refund you your money. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right. So I didn't argue with her at all. I was like, you know what? Because okay, Friday, me and you and a bunch of people, it was like 20 of us, we hung out together, right? And everyone's like, oh, Frazier, you're going to go back to back. Oh, like you're going to top and I expect you to do well. And there was all these podcasts and conversations happening about people having me on their list of people who are going to do well. And I get it, right? Like I get it. I was telling you, Eric, and everybody else the same thing. And you remember what I said? I was like, I'm not greedy. I actually have no pressure right now.
Yep.
If I don't win, if I don't top, I'm completely okay with that. And I had told that to everyone because I genuinely felt that way. I went to that event with no like chip on my shoulder that I have to go back to back and I have to try real hard and blah blah blah. I just told everyone, I was like, I am taking it so easy. And if one of my friends wins, like if Marcus won, which I would love because he needs a win. So I'm doing the same thing that you did to me after you won. Like there are people who I want to win now. And like Beast Mode is one of them. I think my two right now, the You're Next, right?
Yeah.
the All Might You're Next. So I want Beast Mode. I want Marcus to get their wins, and I know that they will come eventually. But they're two really good players, and there's a couple other people I can't think of right now. But the point is, I was saying that I don't need to win every tournament. I'm not like, I don't know what the modern Yu-Gi-Oh player mindset is, but I know some of the greats. You know, they just want to win everything. Like the Jesse Cottons and the Crystal Blancs of the world, they have like 5 and 6 wins. And they want more. They want to get to 10. And I get that. Like if you're hyper competitive and that's your thing, you know, I get that. I am not in that mindset that I need to win every tournament I play in. That is not like, obviously, yes, winning would be great, but I'm also realistic about Yu-Gi-Oh! We're playing a game of variance. We're playing a game of chance at the end of the day. There is still RNG. You know, I could play as great as I want to play, but if my opponent opens up the nuts, I lose just like anybody else. And I have to come to terms with that, to not depress myself, to not like get worked up when I lose, you know, just like be mature about the situation. Like anything can happen in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's Yu-Gi-Oh! No matter how good you are, things can happen. So I already went in with this mindset that like, if things don't work out this weekend, it's okay because hopefully it works out for somebody else. Shout out to the guy who won Bronte. I watched him play in Vegas when he's playing Agents, Tengu. He won with Frogs, which I'm happy about because Frogs, best deck, you know, I like to push the narrative and I'm really happy for him. But that is the situation that happened to me. I didn't tell anybody exactly what happened, but it was no drama. There was no like bad situation. I'm not getting penalized for something by Konami or anything like that. It's just like, oh, I just didn't submit my deck list on time. And I also did not hear the announcement where they said, if you submitted your deck list late, come to the stage so that we can actually get you entered into the tournament. I didn't know that they would literally not even have me in the tournament for that. I thought like, oh, I thought it would say, I don't know why, but I thought it would say like game loss or something next to my name or like something that would tell me, or maybe a judge would come up to me and tell me, but I just figured there would be something that says like, you have a game loss and I'll be like, that's fine. Like I can absolutely win 2 games in a row. Round 1, pretty much usually the easiest round, except last tournament where I had to play you round 1, but that's the story. So with the other half of this episode, I do want to talk about what happened with you this weekend.
Yeah, well, I submitted my deck list on time. But I was going back and forth between a bunch of lists as well, and I submitted mine Friday night because I was like, I know I can't get there's no way I could get a definite like feel good, like this list is strictly better than like this list. So I just went with what I thought was what I was comfortable with, which was essentially my Raleigh list with like 1 or 2 card changes. But yeah, I ended up playing Bayou. I went 6-3, which is fine. Like, yeah, there's variance. I lost to 2 mirrors and Amaryllis, and the Amaryllis guy just like, you know, God-handed me. So there's nothing I could really do. And the Value Mirror, I just, you know, they drew better. So, well, yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's like, I'm fine with it. I played pretty good. Obviously, I wish I could have done well, but it's, you know, one of the hardest tournaments ever. And then my friends, 2 of my Chicago peeps topped 8, which is insane.
Shout out to HT19. Awesome. And who's the other one?
Yep.
Rick. Novak. Yep.
They're insane. So yeah, I mean, I had a really fun weekend. Just
we like had a great weekend. I took it so I chilled. I took it so like this weekend was amazing for me because I actually didn't have the pressure of performing at all once that happened. I caught up on One Piece. Like I went back to my hotel room. I caught up on One Piece. I hung out with my friend Michi. Like we talked for hours. We like went to Starbucks and I went to get barbecue. Like I went out to eat and it was great. Like this whole weekend, it was just really chill. And I enjoyed, and I took so many pictures and like hung out with so many people that I've never met before. All the people from the Discord, shout out to Enraged Peacock, Frozen Soul, Crops, a bunch of people I've never met in real life. And I got to meet them from Discord in real life. And then, yeah, so many people were just really nice. This weekend was one of the best Yu-Gi-Oh weekends I had. And it's weird because I didn't even play.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I had the pressure though still when I was playing, so maybe that's why I felt like it wasn't as one of
Well, yeah,
the
I think that
best I remember
if
weekends
I
I've
would have
read. Yeah.
played and not done well or whatever, of course, there's always that disappointment from being a top player and not performing or whatnot. But like again, I've played in so many Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments and I've not topped so many times. You guys don't hear about it, right? But like I've not topped and been disappointed so many times that at this point I'm kind of numb to it. I'm kind of just like, all right, like whatever, you know. Like I just don't want to beat myself up too much about it. If you're chasing a win or you're chasing something, your first top or whatnot, I understand that. I'm just not in that mindset anymore. I got my win. I have a shit ton of tops throughout my time playing Yu-Gi-Oh. So for me, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just happy to be here. Like I'm just genuinely happy to be here. And I'm already booked for Sacramento. I'll see you guys in 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's crazy though, because our little like posse friend group, past 3 YCS events,
Yeah,
we've always had someone in our group go all the way to the final table.
that is insane. Yes.
It is crazy. So we're just literally like living. Our whole group is living vicariously through each other. So the tournaments are still always enjoyable. It's not like everyone scrubs out and it's like, oh, I guess we just chill around and hang out now.
Right.
So that's really fun. But yeah, the pressure is still there for me. I'm glad it's not there for you. But
Well,
it
it
is
only
still
wasn't there
for me.
because I didn't get to play. Honestly, I'm sure
Yeah.
if I would have had a round 1 opponent, it would have all came back. But yeah, this weekend was great. Like I've never been treated as well as I was treated at like this tournament. The number of people that walked up to me and just told me they love the podcast, they love the YouTube videos, and like wanted to take a picture with me. Some woman came up to me. I don't remember anyone's name, so sorry about that. But some woman came up to me and was like, "Me and my husband literally every morning we drive to work and we listen to your podcast. We listen to some episodes again if there isn't a new one out." And that was insane to me. Like there were so many things that just made me feel really happy about what I'm doing as a content creator and also just as a Yu-Gi-Oh player in this part of my life. Because before,
Yep.
I didn't, I never made content except ARG articles. So it was just nice being able to experience that love from fans and everything without having to be like, oh, what's your record? And it's like, oh, I'm actually whatever, right? Like I didn't have to, every time somebody said that, I would just be like, I'm undefeated. It was kind of like a little inside joke or whatnot. But yeah, that was great. Like honestly, yeah, I'm just happy. I'm happy that again, Frogs won. I also think that we need to do another episode to talk about value. I think that it's time that we address the elephant in the room. I have been telling Eric this, but I think it might be over for value, bro. I think it's time to put the value deck down.
I don't know if it's time to put it down per se, but the meta is definitely not in favor anymore. People know how to play against it a lot. Hero Beat isn't as popular, and that was a matchup value thrived on.
Hero, Frogs, and Frog decks are more popular, and Amaryllis is a deck that came out of nowhere, and it's really bad for you.
Yep.
And I think that there are more matchups now that are threatening to the value play style, especially Frogs, of course, but there are more matchups now that are threatening to value that are popular, and the matchups that you beat a little bit easier are less popular. And that really, and like even though I think that value slightly edges out Black Wings, it's not to the point where like if it does, it's 55-45 at best.
Yes.
And so Black Wings being one of the most represented decks, if you have a slightly winning matchup against that deck, a losing matchup to Hero Frogs, I think that we can all finally agree that like it is a losing matchup, bro. Like if the opponent is good with Hero Frogs or any kind of frog deck, it seems like the value matchup is just not it. So there's a couple more matchups that are bad. I think Amaryllis is like one of those decks that can non-game value really easily because of how many cards target. It's just how slow the deck can be. And yeah, setting monsters is like one of the only. It's the best deck that sets monsters, of course. But like setting monsters, I feel like the best decks are going face up. If you look at the top 4 decks that top 4 this nationals and like literally have been doing well. I just noticed it, but you got Black Wings, right? You have Frogs. You have Glad Beasts, which has actually been top 4ing twice in a row now. And those decks are just doing, and Amarillo's two top spots in this tournament, 2 top spots in the one that you won, or second place in the one that you won. And so, yeah, it just seems like the face-up decks are doing really well. And I will consider GB to be a face-up deck too. Like it does pretty much just play face-up. So
yeah,
I
feel like value thrives on the slower pace meta that it used to be.
Yeah.
Like go 1 for 1 and then just outgrind your opponent and just do unfair stuff. But the meta is become obviously much, much faster. Even the tier 1.5 decks are much, much faster. Even though value kind of has a edging matchup into a lot of the tier 1.5, if you don't see oppression or they can just blow you out like fast before you can even do anything.
Yeah.
It's
and
really annoying.
The draw traps, bro. That's another thing too. I feel like when you told me what happened to you round 1, where your opponent kind of like you said a Raiko or whatever and an MST or something like that, and your opponent also T-set, and you had this mind game going on in your own head where you were like, well, he would not blatantly set a real back row into my Raikou, so it's probably a draw trap. So you in-phase MST'd it, and it was a fucking D prison, which means that your Raikou would have got full advantage. And like that mind game that you had to play, I don't partake in that at all. I don't like the decks that I use. They don't care. I don't give a fuck. Like that is a value issue that you have with that whole like, oh, what do I do with my Raikou thing? Do I even flip it here? Is he baiting me? Like I don't that mind game, that whole 50-50 thing that you're doing, that's like pressure that I don't even want to know about.
Yeah, it's. I feel like that one was more I overestimated my opponent, and I need to disrespect my opponents more until I. No offense, but you really should just disrespect your opponent until they show that you don't need to disrespect them.
I agree. I agree.
So that was a me problem.
Yeah. So we'll continue this conversation in another episode. There's a lot that I want to talk about, not just on value, but the way the meta is right now. It's definitely changed. You can tell by the top decks at this tournament. But yeah, shout out to Enraged Peacock for getting top 8 at the biggest retro tournament ever with Diva Hero. That is so fucking awesome. Shout out to Frozen Soul for getting top 16 and a bunch of other people who got top 16. That's our time. We're going to end it there. But yeah, that is the story about what happened at Nationals. Let us know what your thoughts on that. Your boy goofed, but it actually ended up working out because I still had an amazing weekend and I will be competing in future events anyway. So peace.